Hi, everyone, and welcome to Macomb, Illinois. It's the Bison Media Blog pregame show as North Dakota State goes for a 29th consecutive win here in Macomb against the Fighting Leathernecks of Western Illinois. With Big E, Eric Peterson, and Jeff Kolpak, I am merely Dom Izzo. We're live on WDAY's Extra, WDAY.com, Inforum.com, any other forum property I can think of. We are live. Boys, the Fargo weather has followed us. It's sunny for the moment. It's cold, brisk, maybe the best word to describe it. Windy as well, Jeffrey. I'm not sure how that's going to affect game conditions we talk about later in today's show.
Well, we talked to NDSU offensive coordinator Tim Polisic this morning on our radio show, and he's not going to change the game plan. They're going to go with what they have. They think Carson Wentz, the NDSU quarterback, has a strong enough arm to where the wind probably won't affect what they want to do.
Big E, NDSU comes into this game. I mentioned winners of 28 in a row, already 4-0 in the preseason, so to speak, in the non-conference. Now they get into the nitty-gritty, and what we've seen of the Missouri Valley, we've known it for the past 5 years covering this team, but now, especially what the league has done out of conference, even with a team that is 2-3, nothing should be taken for granted, including here today.
Well, you look at Western Illinois' track record just this season. They've hung in there the halves against two Big Ten teams. So, you know, NDSU's got to be prepared to play a full 60 minutes because it's homecoming here. It's going to be a good atmosphere. It sounds like it's going to be a decent crowd. And Western Illinois under Bob Nielsen, one thing I think they're going to do is play good defense, and they're going to try to do what NDSU does by controlling the football and playing smash mouth defense. So, you know, this offense, it's going to be a little challenge for this offense. I don't think it's reached that consistency level for the Bison, so this will be a test for them today.
A little different vibe, and we're here in 2009. There's a house right up the hill, and more people are looking at that party the students are having up there, especially when the police came.
Yeah.
And in 2011, it was the last game of the year, and there was nobody here.
Yeah, if you look at that atmosphere here, it was the last game of the season for both NDSU and Western Illinois. Obviously, the Bison were going on to win their first national championship, but it's a different vibe here. Obviously, we talked about it with Pat Osterman, Western Illinois' SID, about the culture change here, and nothing would do better for Western today than to knock off the top-ranked team in the country. They come off a loss against Southern Illinois last week in their conference opener. This series is a lot closer than people would expect, Jeffrey. The Bison are actually 3-0 here, but they're 0-2 in Fargo, in kind of a neat nerd stat.
The home team has never won in this series in 5 games. That is real interesting. This is the game of the year for Western Illinois. I know we said that for a lot of these teams when they play NDSU, but that's so true with homecoming. I think it's going to be a big recruiting weekend for WIU. They're going to have a lot of players here, a lot of recruits, and if they can put up a good effort against the nation's top team, I think it'll be a big deal for them.
We've got a busy show coming up here for the next half hour. Mike Kern, the assistant commissioner of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, will join us to talk about the league's strength, what they've done out of conference. I get like 8 emails a day from him, bragging about the league. I'm trying to do the same, but they've been unbelievable in non-conference play. 23-1, Kolpak, including Indiana State's win over Liberty last week to get into that mark. Their only loss was South Dakota, losing at Montana. Includes 2 FBS wins. We've talked about it for a long time over the last couple of years of how strong the league has been. They have flexed their muscle so far.
They have, and in USA Today Sagarin ratings, they're rated ahead of 3 FBS conferences. You're talking about the Mid-American, the Sun Belt, and the Conference USA. That's really saying something. I'm not a big thing on ratings if that translate to reality, but in this case, I think you can make a good argument for it.
Well, look at the polls. 8 teams are ranked. There's no way you're going to go with a game that's not ranked today. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the pregame show about the ranked matchups in today's games.
Well, yeah, and every game now in the Valley is a ranked versus ranked opponent. So we'll see how things shake out. For a first week of the season, it's awfully big.
Big E, today is a milestone day for 3 cornerstones of the Bison defense. Travis Beck, Christian Dudzik, and Kyle Emanuel. All of them will be playing in their 50th game today. Just that number alone. I mean, if you're an average FCS team, you hope to play 44 games, and they still have 8 games to go in this regular season.
Well, not only that, I guess what you got to marvel at is the longevity or the durability, the toughness. I mean, Travis Beck hasn't been like a clean bill of health this whole way through. Like every other game last year, it seemed his shoulders popping out to the level where he even said sometimes he couldn't tackle as hard as he liked to. You know, Christian Dudzik, a guy who's played corner, safety, back and forth. Kyle Emanuel's a guy you could probably put inside if you need to on pass rushing situations, play outside. He can drop into coverage. So just the versatility of all 3 of them. And I think Jeff and I were talking to Phil Hansen before he came down here about the versatility of Travis Beck. If Jeff wants to, expound on that a little.
Well, he's an outside linebacker, and in passing situations, a lot of times you see him subbing for defensive backs. And Travis Beck, he can do both. He can stuff the run. He can play run defense. He also can drop back and pass coverage and cover these running backs coming out of the backfield. That's just crazy talent right there.
He's a North Dakota legend for all time for what he did. We just saw a brief clip of the video, if we can go back to that, of the FCS championship game in 2011. Obviously, when he's named the MVP, had the interception that sealed the game, that led to a touchdown that really put it away against Sam Houston State. And there's another play you guys were at last year, leaping through the air at Kansas State, and that actually kind of backfired on him because he blew out his shoulder. Granted, it was hurt going into last season, but trying to tackle Jake Waters leaping through the air, no Bison fan will ever forget that.
Well, that just shows the commitment. He knows his shoulder's hurt, and he knows when he lands. It's probably going to not feel very good or something bad could happen. But back to Kopach's point, when you can play a nickel package and keep a linebacker on the field, that's where a lot of teams try to create the mismatch. Like, if you put a D-back out in that slot, well, let's run at that guy because he's probably not that good a tackler. Well, NDSU, you have a linebacker out there. So what are you going to do, run at a linebacker who's used to tackling people?
I thought that Superman leap against Kansas State was a point in the game where people went, okay,
holy cow,
this is not an FCS team, your ordinary FCS team.
Let's talk about Christian Dudzik. When he came to NDSU, he came obviously as a safety, but right away he got moved to corner when Brendan Pierre was ruled academically ineligible. The really crazy stat, obviously 50 games, is remarkable. He started all 50, including today's game here at Western.
Well, durability, and he's such a good athlete. He's, we talked about, is he the fastest guy on the team? Well, maybe not, but he certainly has the jets when he can turn it on. He's also a good punt returner, so maybe we'll see that on display today. But to go from corner to safety, and you can play any. I mean, those are not just defensive back positions; they are two distinctly separate positions.
Big E, he had the play of the game last time the Bison played against Montana with the interception.
Yeah, and it looked like for a split second that pass might have been open, but he closes the gap and, intercepts the pass. And that at that point, if Montana scores, I think it gets pretty dicey. Or definitely, the small Montana contingent there gets into the game, and all of a sudden, you're really fighting in the fourth quarter. That's why you cannot play Christian Dudzik that much on offense. He is too valuable. I know he's durable. He's played 50 games, but
Put your best athletes on the field.
That's exactly what Craig Bohl did. And his most enduring memory to me is last year at Indiana State, not only did he have one punt return, he had two in the same game for touchdowns, showing off that speed.
And this is a team that had Ryan Smith, who, by the way, was an all-newcomer as a punt returner when he was going well. When you have athletes like that, and we'll get into this on the Bison defense a little later in the show, but when you have athletes like that, you're just tough to beat. And they still are the team in the division that plays defense better than anybody else.
He was also, along with the guy we'll talk about next, one of the early recruits out of the state of Nebraska. I know Garrett Brune kind of paved the way in this Division I transition, but Dudzik and Kyle Emanuel were the early ones out of Nebraska, and that's when we kind of stood up and say, okay, football players out of that state are going to be pretty good, and those two exemplify that.
Right. Back in the old day, too, when Nebraska was really going good with their walk-on program, those guys, you got to believe, would have walked down.
Never would have left the state.
Absolutely not. You don't leave the borders when you're a Nebraska football player. But that's changed, and I think these guys really have set the table for possibly future recruiting. Tyler Rice from Omaha, we may see him on the field today.
Easton Stick is here, obviously a top recruit out of the city of Omaha. The last guy might be the best player on defense in the FCS here in 2014, and that's Kyle Emanuel. He's already got the best celebration dance going already in Big E in 2014, but he has been tremendous. 5 sacks already in the first 4 games. The first 2 games alone against Iowa State and Weber State, he was downright dominant.
Well, Kopach probably wants to play him at fullback and Beck at running back if he wants to get the best athletes on the field. Let's just put everybody at risk.
Good idea.
Let's put everybody at risk.
Good idea.
But back to the point, I mean, he's a game changer. That Weber State game on the road, a team, you thought they should handle relatively easily. They struggled a little bit. He turned the game. He had the sack in the strip, and Little John returns it for a touchdown. I think Weber State had an offensive tackle starting guy who, got hurt. He smelt blood in the water. The next play, it's a sack. So he's the guy who can, turn the game on. The pass rush is huge. To have all that stuff on the back end is great, but if you can rush the passer, it makes all that stuff look better.
And more than that, these guys, look at what Kyle Emanuel does off the field. He's a member of Blue Key Honorary Fraternity. There's only 35 members, and he's one of them. He's a regular in his Bible study group. These guys just have such a total package. You run into them in the hallways at the Fargo Dome, and you don't get that I'm a big jock star vibe. No, they're just a regular students.
The crazy part about him is the amount of reps he's playing now, Big E. And you just wonder, how come he couldn't get on the field more? But obviously, Cole Jurek was in front of him or playing alongside him over the last couple of years. And Jurek was just named one of the best defensive linemen in the history of the Missouri Valley. But obviously Chris Kleiman told us he wants to play him a lot, and that certainly has proved prophetic so far.
Well, that's always the question. You rotate guys, and part of the reason is to keep them fresh. So the question is, well, what happens when he ups that snap count? Well, obviously the answer is he can handle it. He can handle the 80% snaps, whatever he's taking right now, But as a defensive line, I still think you want to rotate because it gives you time to develop that depth. And I think it's paying off for him, the snaps he took, as a freshman and a sophomore, where he not necessarily playing a main role, but just getting your feet wet, getting into the game. And, I think that's why that rotation's valuable, because now you can see what a finished product looks like 4 years down the road.
You always hammer about defense in the Missouri Valley, and obviously I believe it's the only conference in the FCS that plays defense. The CAA can get mad at me on that one, but this Bison defense, we knew it was going to be good. What they brought back, obviously, 9 starters returning in 2014. But you have a pretty interesting graphic about what they're doing here in 2014, maybe even better than what they did last year.
Well, we heard so much about losing 23 seniors from last year, and this team won't be the same. But let's look at the defensive stats after 4 games and compare them to what they did last year. Opponents scoring a game, 7.8 points a game they're giving up this year. They gave up 11.3 on average last year. Rushing per game this year, only giving up 73 yards. Last year they gave up 91 yards. You're better in that area right now after 4 games, which, by the way, included FBS Iowa State and nationally ranked Montana. Passing yards per game, 168 they're giving up this year on average. Last year was 165, about the same there. Total yards, 241 they're giving up this year. Last year, 256. These stats are just slightly better than last year's pace.
Does that surprise you?
No, because they have all these players back on defense. You have the best 3 linebackers, I think, in the FCS as a group. You have that veteran presence of Colton Hegel and Dudzik.
I think the secondary is the best in the FCS. I'm going to go and say that. For the 3 guys they have back, there's no doubt about that.
And, of course, everybody was wondering about the interior where they lost all those linemen. Those guys, I think, have played very well.
What do you think, Biggie? Are you surprised by those numbers?
No, because the fact of the injuries last year in a way helped him long term. With Grant Olson getting hurt, you'd hate to see that happen. But Little John had a kind of a dress rehearsal in the middle linebacker. He looked pretty good, and Jordan Champion got a couple starts under his belt when Marcus Williams got hurt. So through injuries and through just rotating guys in, a lot of those guys had seen some action, and I think 10 guys on this defense had started at one point. Not that they were regular starters, but you return 10 guys on a pretty good defense with starting experience, and like Jeff said, the backbone of that's kind of those starting linebackers, those 3. And then is there a better pair of safeties in the FCS?
No.
You got Colton Hegel and Christian Dudzik. You got the run stuffer and the guy who can, cover the pass deep. It's a pretty good combination back there.
Also, you mentioned the young guys. Ambrosius has played really well since Mike Hardy went down. I look at Nate Tangway, who looks like he is going to be a bona fide guy in the middle for the next 4 years.
Well, he looks the part. He plays the part. He's big enough. He's fast enough. And I think we found out that he's been pretty productive as a freshman playing. I think Brian Schatz, though, that toughness mentality that he brings this team, that small town, walk on, I'm just going to do whatever I can to make this team, you just can't beat that.
Big E, we have to excuse you for a little bit because I know you have to get ready for your prediction segment, which is coming up here in the last part of the show.
Well, just to expound on this.
Oh, you're not done.
One more before I leave.
Never. You always get the last one.
You're hijacking the show.
No, we're worried about there's a little concern about that interior of the defensive line. I think that was answered at Iowa State, where Nate Tangway made like 3 plays before the game even started, as Kyle Manuel put it. And Brian Schatz, like body slammed a guy. So that inside of the line really set the tone early on. And with that, I will leave.
All right, there's the last word from Big E. He'll be joining us later. Of course, everyone waiting and wondering what he's going to pull out for his prediction. I don't know if he has a live Marine if he wants to pick Western Illinois today. They are the Fighting Leathernecks. I don't know if he has the budget for that. But we mentioned today is a huge day in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Conference play getting started. Today is interesting, Jeff, and we mentioned this on the radio show. These are all the matchups that have not happened in 3 years' time because now of the unbalanced schedule in the league. These teams that are playing today have not faced each other since 2011.
Yeah, it's like the Let's Get Reacquainted Bowl today across the Missouri Valley. And, oh, by the way, almost everybody is ranked.
Yeah.
Did we mention that?
No doubt. Let's welcome in the Assistant Commissioner for the Missouri Valley Football Conference, Mike Kern. Mike, great to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
The league, and I was just kidding, by the way. I love your emails because you always give me some great nerd stats, though. I mean, this is unbelievable. And I know Patty Viverito, who was on our last pregame show in Fargo, touted before the season to strengthen the non-conference, to show how good this league is. It can't be any better than what it has been through the first 5 weeks.
No, it's the best we've ever had. At 23-1, 5-1 against ranked teams, and the one loss we had was against Montana when they were ranked number 3, and it was by a touchdown. Yeah. So we're really at a pinnacle now for our league.
Let's get to the reasons why this is. And I think what one of the reasons, or one of the coaches brought up in the teleconference this year, was the commitment that all these universities are making to football. Perhaps it wasn't that way in the 90s and maybe in the early turn of the century, but you have new facilities all over the place. How has that impacted the level of play?
It has, because people have committed towards football, from the president, from the athletic director. The whole campus is all a football community right now. So it's and another point that one of the coaches made on the teleconference is not only are we playing good teams, we're winning.
Yep.
Missouri State has struggled in the non-conference season. In the last few years, they've really played well in conference, and the people outside the league are saying, wow, well, Missouri State's beating them. How good is that league?
Has Joe Glenn apologized for losing, by the way, yet?
Well, that's coming, I think. That's coming, I think. But, yeah, it's been a tremendous year.
Western Illinois defensive coordinator Brian Ward told me earlier on my radio show this week that the conference is, quote, a bloodbath, and this is crazy. And Western's already played a conference game. Do you worry? Because we've seen it, and this is what's hurt the league come playoff time, is the teams beat up so much on one another that if they have 3 losses, that the committee is going to overlook them. How much do you worry about that going into November?
Well, I think in previous years maybe a little bit more. This year we're in a better position with what we've done non-conference. So now if you lose a game in the league, it doesn't hurt you as much, or maybe not at all, because it's a loss to a good team, because everybody has proven that they're a good team.
We remember when Indiana State went, the last time NDSU lost, they were jumping up and down saying, playoffs, we're going to make the playoffs, and unfortunately the end of their season did not go so well. But those wins, you look at a Youngstown State, which went and beat NDSU, and they unfortunately fell down the stretch, but that can bolster your resume in a way that no way a non-league win could do.
Absolutely, because now our wins against each other are better than winning a non-league game. So I think the committee has finally grasped that, and this is the year that we don't end up with 2. We can't.
Yeah.
We have deserved more than that for many years, and this is another reason why we need more this year.
Well, if the CAA in all those years got 4 in, and they deservedly so there for a while, because I think
they were the best league going.
They were, and I think Missouri Valley has taken that title. The key, though, is does the committee recognize that? Does the committee recognize the Sagarin ratings, for instance?
They look at all sorts of factors. They've got the standard the Sagarin ratings. They got the polls. They look at the eye test, if you will. So they're looking at all those things that everybody looks at. I think what has set us apart this year is that everybody has won out of league, and there's no disputing that we've been able to beat everybody else. We've done well against FBS schools in high-profile games on national television. Even the losses we've had against the FBS, they've not been lopsided except for one. Most of the games have been competitive. You got Western Illinois battling Wisconsin at half. They're only down by 6. Yeah. So you know how good Wisconsin is.
Let's go back. I want to go back to 2007 when NDSU and SDSU were applying to get into the league. And I know there was some resistance, Southern Illinois, Indiana State, just because I think it was travel and maybe also because of competition level. But we talked to Patty about this a few weeks ago, that I don't think anybody could have foreseen what those schools would have brought to the league and the heights of where this conference is right now.
Well, I think it's done that. I think there might have been some trepidation because of the travel, and it's for some schools it's pretty far, and it's a bus trip. But now you look at everybody's trying to keep up with North Dakota State. South Dakota State's building a new stadium. Missouri State just renovated their stadium. Everybody's doing things for their football program, and I think the Dakotas have made people raise their bar a little higher.
Well, I think, too, if you commit to facilities and you say you don't build a new stadium or renovate it for $10. I mean, it takes some significant contributions. I think those charter plane flights now they were maybe a little worried about, not such a big deal.
No, I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. It's just been a total transformation. Our league has always been good and competitive, but now we're at a different level than we've ever been.
Indiana State, quite frankly, has surprised me. I don't know about you, but what they did, the Ball State win, it was like, okay, knowing they only won 1 game last year, and the MAC is down this season, but that's still an FBS win. But then they followed up, and they whipped Liberty last year. Mike Sanford, I'm not sure what he's doing, because when we went there last year, the Shakir Bell news just broke, and they seemed in total disarray. 12 months later, it looks like they're running on full steam right now.
They were in disarray. Yeah. The new coaching staff, running back had just left the team, a star running back, and they had injuries all over the place. They had wide receivers playing quarterback. They had all sorts of problems. This year they're healthy. They've got guys that can make plays. I've seen them play a couple times on ESPN3. They have guys that can make plays. They are way improved.
I want to ask you, there's a question I get tweeted about all the time, is about TV rights and where the Missouri Valley is going in that. Obviously, ESPN3 has been huge. We talked to a couple Bison parents today that without it, obviously they couldn't see their sons play. But you look at where the Big Sky's got a pretty nice deal with Root Sports. The CAA has a deal with NBC Sports Network. Is there anything in the offing with the Missouri Valley to get more games on national television and not exactly through the internet?
Yeah, ESPN3 has been our best partner. We used to have a package on over-the-air station with Fox. Fox Midwest was our partner, and we share games with all the other Fox regional outlets. But with the plethora of other FBS conferences taking up all those, we're playing at 11 a.m. or 2 in the morning. It's like our best vehicle in terms of setting game times and reaching more people has been through ESPN3, and at some point that might be a terrestrial station, so it might transition from internet to regular TV.
Let's talk. I know this is kind of maybe out of your purview, but with the success that you've seen with the Dakota schools, is there possibly down the road maybe an opening in the Missouri Valley for full membership for those schools?
You know, I don't know. It depends what the landscape takes. You know, if our league, the basketball playing, the Missouri Valley League, gets a little bit changed, it's possible. Things happen quickly in college athletics nowadays, where you're not thinking anything's possible, and then 6 months later you're part of the league. That's what happened with South Dakota.
Yeah.
Well, 1 week they're like, you're in the Big Sky. Oh, we made it announced the following week. Right. It does happen fast sometimes. So
when will we see you in Fargo next?
I will be up there for the playoffs.
Okay. He's already booking his trip there.
So, I have what I do is I travel all of our telecasts. So I've got the Bison on the road this year, and I haven't been able to get a game up there on home because I'll be at all the other games. But I'm looking forward to November.
You make a stop in each Missouri Valley city, though, correct?
I do, yeah, I do. So I'll be up in Fargo at some point in November, December, and maybe see the bunch down in Frisco.
It'll be warmer inside than it is out here.
Yeah, I joked with Jeremy Jorgen. Said, "Did you guys bring the cold weather down from Fargo with you?" He said, "Well, it's actually snowing a little bit last night." So
it's a solid Fargo day. Thanks for doing this today.
Thanks, Tom.
We always appreciate the help. That's Mike Kern, the assistant commissioner, I should say, of the Missouri Valley Football Conference, joining us here on our Bison Media Blog pregame show as we're live on WDAY's Extra, WDAY.com, and Inforum.com as NDSU and Western Illinois get going at 3 o'clock. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this game. We've mentioned Western Illinois. They've totally revamped, obviously, their entire team, led by Bob Nielsen. That's a familiar name to football fans in the upper Midwest, obviously from his days at Minnesota Duluth. He comes in, they're 2-3 on the season. Obviously, they played two Big Ten teams, and I'm really curious of how they approach today's game, how beat up they are against Western Illinois and against Wisconsin and against Northwestern.
Yeah, two Big Ten teams. Northern Iowa 2 years ago played two Big Ten teams. Never recovered because they got banged up just playing those heavier, more powerful players. And we'll see what WIU is today. I'm hearing that maybe they've been a little beat up. That's kind of the suspicion. But this is a team, though. This is it. I mean, this team, this is their game, right? I just think you're going to see some wrinkles. Problem, though, is NDSU is coming off a bye. And NDSU's been really good, 10-0 off a bye in the last 10 games.
Big E is back with us. I'm not quite sure where the prop department is located in Macomb, Illinois, but as we talk about this team with Western Illinois, there's a lot of unknowns, but there's a lot of connections with the two staffs. Obviously, Brian Ward used to be on the NDSU staff. Now he's the defensive coordinator for Western Illinois. Bob Nielsen, Coach Nick Gazer. I'm curious to see how those connections play out here in today's game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the radio show earlier today. Like everyone seems to know everybody, and you just don't think there'll be any secrets. And maybe it's an idea, or maybe you can use that to your advantage because they have an idea of what they think you do and what you like to do. Maybe that's when a wrinkle works for you because you're like, this coach likes doing this coach likes doing that, and going against some, norms or some trends that you may have as a coach.
This matchup, NDSU comes in, obviously winners of 28 straight, 20 in a row on the road, have not lost since the game against Eastern Washington. Biggest key in your mind for NDSU, what do you want to see out of the Bison today off the bye week?
Well, you need to get the running game started, obviously, and they have that three running back attack like we talked about all week with Crockett, King Frazier, and Chase Morlock. Will they be in the game at the same time? Maybe for a few plays.
It was really a weird formation, wasn't it?
Yeah, in the game. Crockett said this week we got some tricky stuff off it, so I'm interested to see if that happens.
It worked pretty well, Big E. The first couple plays they ran that, both Morlock and King Frazier each went for double-digit in yardage.
Well, it just gives you a different look. You have three guys back there. Who's going to be the blocking back? Who's going to get the ball? So normally when you have the normal, Jedry Sear and Andrew Bonnet, you know who's going to get the ball, and maybe they'll throw a wrinkle and they'll throw it in the flat to the fullback. you know, maybe once in a blue moon they'll hand it off to the fullback. That doesn't happen very often. But when you have 3 backs back there, and you know, Chase Morlock's a physical guy, King Frazier's a big guy, so I think those guys can get out in space and throw some blocks. Like you said, it gives you something more to think about as a defense.
Offensive coordinator Tim Polisic told us on our radio show, expect more from Tyler Rice, redshirt freshman wide receiver, and maybe more of D. Gray. It's a homecoming for him. He's from Illinois. Those are 2 guys we haven't seen a lot. I've seen a lot in practice in the spring, but not yet on the football field. I'm curious to see what they do today.
Well, D. Gray was a big recruit.
Big time one.
He was one of those guys where you went, wow, he's got all the physical ability in the world. We got a little hint this morning on the radio show that, you know, they wanted to see more of a mature presence.
An attitude change.
An attitude change. And I think they've seen that in the last couple of weeks in practice. And you don't see the field just automatically in this program or in a lot of programs. You got to do it in practice. And apparently in the last couple of weeks of practice, D. Gray has produced.
You and Kolpak are going out on the flight down here about Carson Wentz, about how he's played so far. Evaluate what you've seen out of the junior quarterback.
I think he's been good right so far, but there's room for improvement. He himself said, you know, after that Weber State game, he was watching film till 3 in the morning. I think the completion percentage is where it was last year, similar. I think what you're missing a little bit is maybe that impact play, that big shot down the field to Zach Vra, or even.
You mean like he did in Iowa State, that impact play?
But we haven't seen it since then.
Well, we haven't. That's true. We haven't needed to see it since.
Well, you saw it against Incarnate Word, but I think you could have made an impact play in that game. But the consistency, too. I think the consistency is what we want to see. I mean,
consistency, 66%. How much more consistent do you want?
Kolpak wants perspective.
Kolpak.
He hasn't fumbled.
Kolpak, if you want the bar here and you keep it here, you don't win 28 in a row. If the bar is here and you want to set it up there, that's how you continue to win games.
I'll say this, though. The 5 field goals, I'm sure, left a bitter taste in their mouth. That they dominated that game against Montana and did not punch it in. And that wasn't a Montana thing. That was an NDSU stopping Indy.
I suppose if you talked to Big E, that was Carson Wentz's fault that they didn't get in the end zone.
Well, there was a couple drops. That wasn't Wentz's fault, but there was a Zach Vra drop deep in the red zone, and they've got to be better at that. Setting for field goals as we get into Valley play, they won't win with that.
Kolpak's always twisting words. I just said I feel he can play better. I said he's played good. I feel he can play better. I don't know him personally, but I think Carson would agree with me. There's room for improvement, and as soon as you're satisfied as a player, you're done as a football team.
Okay, fair enough.
There it is.
How do you like that?
I like that. That was good.
That.
Head coach material. Before we get into our predictions, there's some huge games in the Valley today that we'll be keeping our eye on. Starts earlier, actually. South Dakota State up the road taking on Illinois State. That game in Normal. Also, Northern Iowa and Indiana State. We mentioned that one. The biggest game of the day in my mind is Youngstown and Missouri State. That's a statement game for the Bears playing a Youngstown team that's ranked 12th somehow, and they haven't played anybody.
You want to see if Youngstown is for real. I think Missouri State has proven it's for real. To go into Conway, Arkansas, and beat Central Arkansas is a pretty
And they
good.
rallied against Northwestern State, too.
Yeah, those are 2 games they lost in the past.
Yep. And the other game today in the Missouri Valley, not including here, is USD against Southern Illinois. The Salukis obviously come to Fargo next week. Mark Ionati is really, really good, the quarterback for the Salukis.
Well, they had such a coaching change at SIU in the offseason. I think Dale Lennon's done a pretty remarkable job of patching that together.
4-1 already with a conference win. They beat Western Illinois a week ago. All right, time for our favorite part of the show. It's time for our prediction segment. Now, a couple weeks ago, we had a huge crowd waiting to cheer you on. We don't have that kind of atmosphere today, but I know you'll bring the intensity.
Well, it's Kolpak going to downgrade my prop.
I might hijack.
This year?
I might.
Where's my prop performance been at this year, Kolpak?
That's been okay.
Well, I'm going to kind of go back into the Wayback Machine, sort of, last year flashback. Remember one time I had like a penguin in my pocket?
You did, yes. Way back
well,
when.
I have a baby bulldog in my pocket right now. Check this out. Let's get a close-up. This kind of looks a little bit like Kolpak, doesn't it?
It's a cute little bugger.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a baby bulldog. Bob Nielsen coached the UMD Bulldogs to 2 national championships. The Leathernecks mascot is a bulldog, even though they're called the Leathernecks. Yes. But they're still baby bulldogs. He's just into the program. It hasn't matured enough. I think they're headed in the right direction, but a baby bulldog versus a mature bison, I think it's a dogfight for most of the afternoon, but the Bison pull away late. NDSU 28.
Thank you for that.
Western Illinois 17.
All right, I like that. Right. I thought you were going to have like a live Marine something like that to reference the Leathernecks. The prop budget couldn't get that.
Not in the budget. The baby bulldog is a lot easier to carry on the plane too. I mean, a live marine. I don't know if we had enough room. Yeah, exactly.
Might be hard to do that. You mentioned the 3 running back formation. I think that continues today. I think we see a lot of that. I think that both King Frazier, you mentioned him last week in our post-game show against Montana. I think he has a really big game today. He's starting to get his footing after missing all of spring football. I think he goes for 100 yards today, and I have the Bison winning big, 34-14.
I don't mean to pick on you all the time.
Sure you do.
But, you know, hanging around me, you can learn a few things, especially fashion sense.
Oh.
When we had the NDSU AD being named press conference, he was wearing a plaid tie, or so I called it a plaid tie.
You called it plaid, yes. You were corrected.
I was corrected in a nice email from the assistant dean of the College of Human Development that, no, it is not plaid. It is tartan.
Yes.
Yes. So,
I thought tartan was a floor from the 1980s that was rubberized and made your knees go bad.
The BSA used to have a tartan floor.
Yeah. So, you know, so you could maybe use a couple fashion tips. You've been wearing that sweater now for 2 years almost every day. So,
I bought the sweater on your recommendation. So I guess you're ripping yourself now. All right.
So on that sense, here's my pick.
Oh, my.
These glasses are the courtesy of one of the NDSU tartan project.
Nice.
You can hardly see through them. I don't know how you wear them. But I'm picking NDSU 31, Western 10.
Kolpak's future is so bright, Big E needs shades, apparently.
Well, he should wear these when he goes to the bathroom because he's always catching himself looking in the mirror. He's so vain, pumping his tires. Maybe this would, like, you know, we're talking about players on this team getting a maturity level. Kopak's got to reach some maturity level.
You look good, though.
Those things. You look ridiculous. Those are ridiculous.
There you have it, folks. It's the Bison Media Blog pregame show. Our live blog will start at 2 o'clock. Also included coming up in a short while's time, our interview with Chris Kleiman and getting his thoughts as NDSU goes for a 29th straight win against Western Illinois. So the live blog on Inforum.com, complete highlights and reaction coming up on WDAY after the game. And then, of course, the postgame show. You'll see it on the Bison Media Blog and, of course, on WDAY.com. So for the Baby Bulldog, Big E, Eric Peterson, and the guy with shades, Jeff Kolpak, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks, everybody, for watching live from Macomb.